Hey guys, Dan here, and it's Tim over Zoom. Hello, Tim.
Hi, everybody.
This is quite the special episode of Dan Does Disney for many reasons. Number one, it's episode number 50. This is our 50th Disney movie. And Tim hasn't done quite all of them with me because Joe did some of the more popular animated ones, but 50 already, Tim.
Yeah, what a ride.
What a ride it's been. And the other reason it's special is because it is the famed Swiss Family Robinson. We've been talking about this for literally the last 12 episodes, probably. Because we've got so many Disney regulars in here. Tim will go over that as we get into the specifics of the movie itself. But so I actually have two copies of this thing. I held up the Blu-ray version. This is the 55th anniversary. It's the only way to get it on Blu-ray, but it comes with 0 extras. So I didn't even watch it on that. I didn't even open that one. But for $5 on Amazon, you can get the previous version on DVD, which is a 2-disc set. It comes with all of these extras we're going to talk about. I don't know why they didn't port that over to the Blu-ray. Most of their animated movies, they just upgrade all the bonus features to Blu-ray, but not the case this time for some reason.
It is a mystery.
Yeah, it's a big mystery. I, for once, am wearing a Disney shirt, by the way. Usually I don't wear Disney shirts because I only have a couple, but this is a special occasion. And Tim, you're not wearing a Disney shirt, or is that Disney?
No, I didn't have a Disney shirt clean, and this is it's My Pet Monster from the 80s.
Okay, it definitely looked familiar, but it did not look Disney. It looks more like a Jim Henson or something than a Disney.
Yeah, it was a weird pet monster that you could have, and I really liked it when I was a kid, and my sister bought me the shirt.
No, all right, very nice. Well, all right. So this one I think is going to be one of our longest ones. We've had a couple that were very long. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, obviously, Song of the South was long, but there's a lot to talk about here. This is a movie that there's a ton of information about, and then I gleaned even some further things from watching the bonus features. So no shortage here of things to talk about. So we're going to do what we always do. I'm going to give you sort of the rundown of the making of. And then, Tim, you're going to talk about the plot and all of these great actors and all the other Disney things we've seen them in.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So this was the final 1960 film released December 21st. So this was their Christmas movie of the year. It made $8.1 million on a $4 million budget. And eventually, with re-releases and such, it made $40 million in the US and Canada. And this was the 4th highest grossing movie of 1960. Did you happen to look at the list, Tim, and see what the other ones were?
I did not, but 1960.
One of them I think is a little, not obscure, like we've heard of it, but the other two are like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense if you know what year they came out.
Well, I'm not that great with years, but I was trying to think of any Disney movies prior to this that would have made more money than this. But I don't think this year had like a Shaggy Dog. Shaggy Dog.
No, it definitely was not any Disney movies. They were one of them was very adult. One of the most famous R-rated early movies out there, and the other one is just sort of a, I don't know, PG type family epic of the time.
I can't think of it.
So Exodus was number 3. That's the one I think was maybe a little off the beaten path. But number 2 was Psycho.
Okay.
And then number 1 was Spartacus.
Oh, I'm Spartacus.
So, I am right. I am Spartacus. I mean, you can't really offer up, denial there. But this was the number 4 of the year. So not bad. The highest grossing, I guess, like family movie of the year, certainly. So this was the first widescreen Disney picture shot with Panavision lenses. Usually they were doing CinemaScope, or they would do like a matted widescreen. But here they shot with Panavision. You watched this, I assume, on Disney Plus, right?
I did.
So the picture, I would imagine, is pretty crisp. The picture on this is like decent, but I imagine the Blu-ray version and the Disney Plus version are even better.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Okay. I know usually they will up the ante. I still think 20,000 Leagues looked better. But that was their first really like big scope movie. I feel like.
Yeah, and I mean that they were using like the only CinemaScope that they had available.
That's right. They borrowed them right from a different studio at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, so the studio acquired the rights to this Johann David Weiss novel. And they had come up with a couple of drafts for it and eventually ended up junking about 90% of what was in the book. A lot of the things in this movie do not appear in the book at all. So director Ken Anakin, who we've seen do a couple things before, so him and his team kind of brainstormed all these different things, their wish lists, and then handed it over to famed screenwriter at the time, Lowell Hawley. And Walt trusted these guys because he was dissatisfied with the first two treatments of the book that the other guys came up with. So producer Bill Anderson said, "Why don't we have these pirates as a part of this?" I never knew the pirates weren't in the book at all, so that was news to me. But he hired this sketch artist, John L. Jensen, whose credits included things like the Ten Commandments, so he was very popular at the time. And he storyboarded the whole movie, and basically those pictures became the golden rule and the gospel for what they were actually going to film. So I assume you're not super familiar with the book, right, Tim?
I am not, but I mean, I did in my research, I did find out that the pirates weren't part of it. Roberta wasn't part of the book,
right?
And that there was actually a fourth son named Jack, and that's about as much information as I got.
Yeah. And had you ever seen this before?
I probably seen some scenes with my dad at some point, like he probably had it on TV or something like that, but I don't remember actually sitting down and watching this.
I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, I feel like maybe I watched it once when I was a kid, maybe even in school. But I really didn't remember much about it except for the treehouse. But they have the treehouse in Walt Disney World, which I was at as a kid as well. So it's like, I don't know if I actually saw the movie or if I just walked through the treehouse and that's what reminded me of it. So for all intents and purposes, this is basically like a first watch for me as well.
Yeah, and for me, I've never been to the treehouse, so those are memories I don't have.
Ooh, okay.
I think I mentioned this once before in the Disney thing, is that when my mom was pregnant with my sister, she got sick on Tom Sawyer Island and then
That's
never
right
back. And anytime we were at Disney, and we're like, "Hey, what are those people on that ferry boat going to the island?" My dad's like, "Oh, we're not doing that." So we didn't even know they existed for the longest time, and I still have not stepped foot on Top Star Island.
Wow. Okay. Well, I believe, and I have this later on in my notes, but the one at Disneyland they turned into Tarzan's house or whatever.
Yeah.
But I was just at Walt Disney World 2 years ago, and it's still Swiss Family Robinson there.
Yeah.
So they didn't convert it at both parks.
So in 1962, 2 years after this movie, they created Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse. It opened in Disneyland, and it's in a lot of the other parks as well, not just Disney World, but Tokyo Disney and stuff like that. And then in 1999, they refurbished it to be like Tarzan's Treehouse. But in Disney World, since day one, when it opened, October 1st, 1971, so coming up on the 50th anniversary of that,
wow,
it's one of the original attractions, and it's still on Tom Sawyer Island. It's Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse.
Okay, yeah, because when I read that, I was like, I know in Disney World it is not Tarzan, but
Yeah.
all right. So basically, RKO Pictures made an adaptation in 1940, which, by the way, is also on Disney Plus, so you can kind of compare and contrast. But after seeing that movie, Disney and Bill Anderson, the producer, decided to do their own version of the story. So Anderson talked with the director Ken Anakin during Third Man on the Mountain, which he had also directed. And Anakin, we know from Sword in the Rose as well. So they, have a little bit of a history together. And at the time, Disney actually bought the rights to the 1940 version produced and distributed by RKO. and Disney confiscated all known prints of that version, so nobody could compare and contrast, which is very odd that it's now on Disney Plus.
Well,
and even
they own the rights, so they can put it on Plus.
Sure, but I mean, they own the rights to Song of the South too, Tim. I mean,
but maybe they want people to compare and contrast nowadays, but I mean, to be like, hey, look how much better ours is than the
did you see any of it, by the way?
But I imagine it's better.
Okay, so there's a 20-minute snippet of it as a bonus feature on the DVD, and the Disney version is much better. It's quite bland, the RKO version, but and it was all on a soundstage and everything, so it looks a lot more fake, because it was. But anyway, so speaking of the fakeness, so there were several locations that they were thinking about. At first, they were going to do it in California on a soundstage, or maybe on location in some sort of natural place. But Anakin said, no, let's go to all these other places, look at East Africa, look at the Caribbean. So they visited Jamaica and Trinidad, but that wasn't quite right either. So one of the locals there suggested Tobago, which now, when I think of Trinidad and Tobago as like a pair.
Because they are a pair of a country. They form their own country.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay. I thought maybe just like, I don't know, when they gave away trips or something on game shows, they like sent you there. But at the time, like nobody went to Tobago. Like it wasn't really a known place, whatever. So they went there and just loved it. And one of the issues, though, was it had no wildlife. So I'll get to the animal stuff in a moment here. But they got there. They spent 6 months in Tobago, and there were 6 different beaches. A giant tree there to do the treehouse in, and then swamps, mountains, and other cool stuff like that. And then a lot of it was this natural beauty, like the waterfall scenes. That was all, there were already waterfalls there and stuff. So easy peasy on that. Walt, oddly, though, never apparently made his way to the set, which I feel like is kind of odd for a movie of this magnitude. This is one of his highest budget movies.
Yeah, I did read that as well, and I don't know. I think maybe he was just juggling so much, and then maybe he just had faith in the fact that they storyboard it, and he liked the storyboards, and they were like, "Okay, we're gonna film the storyboard."
Yeah, I guess that's true, and I mean, obviously, they didn't have like computers back then to look instantly at the footage, but I know for at least one of the other movies we talked about, the crew like would mail footage back every day to Walt so he could watch it. So they might have done that here too.
Yeah.
But so they had to build their own soundstage out of sheet metal, and they had to import every single thing that was used because the island had nothing. So there were thousands of tons of equipment that were being shipped in and flown in, and a crew of nearly 1,000 people descended on the island to construct roads, storm shelters, dining facilities, and even parking lots there. So 3 months, 2 60-foot towers were created, and the assistance of highly trained divers were required to build the whole wreck, which was modeled after a Captain Cook ship called the Endeavor. And then the treehouse was constructed in a 200-foot tall tree. And Anakin said it was really solid and capable of holding 20 cast and crew, and also construction in sections so they could take it apart as needed, as the family was building it in the movie. And then you probably read this too. There was only 3 hours of sunlight per day due to the foliage, so they had a real tough time filming a lot of the daytime scenes. And one of the ones, let me see, the swimming hole. It took them 3 weeks to film the swimming hole, even though it's only a few minutes really of the scene, but because there again only a couple hours of sunlight every day.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it was probably a good 10 minutes at the swimming hole.
I guess that's true. Yeah, I forget how long this movie is. It's one of the longer ones. It's over 2 hours.
It is over 2 hours. I don't know the 2:12 that Pollyanna was. I think it might just be like 2:06 or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's right under Pollyanna. Yeah, I forgot Pollyanna was pretty long too. So the script had a bunch of these animals, and they had to fly them in. So 500 animals came from all over the world. 14 trainers looked after these animals, and the trainers met with Anakin every day at 4 o'clock. Went over the different attitudes that the animals needed to have, or the different gestures, and then the trainers would spend all night teaching the animals. And that included 8 dogs, 40 monkeys, 2 elephants, 6 ostriches, 100 flamingos, 6 hyenas, and a tiger. And then the vultures also were directly from Trinidad. As soon as filming was done, the vultures were released, and they all just flew back to Trinidad on their own, which I thought was kind of cool. And there's a lot of animals getting injured. We see a little bit of it, I feel like, on screen maybe, but the zebra was being shocked at one point to help it move. Back then, of course, they didn't have all of the animal cruelty rules and such. But yeah, a lot of more animals than I ever remember seeing in a movie like this.
Yeah, there's a lot of animals, and I mean, the trainers did what they needed to do to get the shots, and like they would not be able to do that these days.
No.
And like they just had who was it? Kevin Corcoran on an elephant in the ocean, and like that was a close call. I read that like Kevin Corcoran got swept off the elephant, and then he wound up underneath the elephant's foot, and his head was the foot of the elephant. And luckily, because of the waves and stuff like that, the elephant didn't put his full pressure on the head.
Yeah, and I actually have a few different stories like that. So that was one of the close calls. When when the dad's doing the vines to act like monkeys, he misses and falls into the water, and his foot just missed a big rock. James MacArthur, with his battle with the big 22 foot long snake, he almost drowned and had to be pulled from the swamp. There was a stunt man that had to rescue 2 stunt doubles that got trapped under the coral reef. So this was not a very safe shoot at the end of the day here. They also experienced one of the biggest storms to ever hit Tobago. It flooded their stage, flooded out the treehouse, some of the other locations as well. So they had to shut down for a few weeks for that as well.
Touch on the danger aspect of it. When you look at the director is the same guy that did Third Man on the Mountain. And when we talk about, he had these actors climbing the mountain. They had a couple close calls with that, but thankfully no one got seriously injured. But I mean, he risked people's lives on a mountain, and I think he just did it with this and had a little bit more budget and was like, we have all these animals, and didn't think it was as dangerous as climbing a mountain. But real life animals and real life ocean, it can be dangerous.
Yeah, very dangerous. I mean, it looks great.
Yeah,
and, we'll get into the specifics of that, but yeah, I mean, you're right. I guess he figured, well, it's we came out a Third Man on the Mountain, okay, so let's try it here. But yeah, a lot of injuries here. So after filming was over, the local, I don't know what you call them, Tobagoans, convinced Walt, who wanted to remove all of the things. They convinced him to let the treehouse stay. You could take all the furnishing out, but leave the actual treehouse itself. And so it became, a pretty popular tourist attraction, and is still there. The structure itself was destroyed in a hurricane, but the tree is still intact and remains there. So I guess we'll get into some of the specifics of the aftermath of the film and its legacy and stuff after we talk about it. Let's talk about the actual plot of this movie here, Tim.
Okay, so we have Swiss Family Robinson. Like Dan said, it's based on the 1812 novel by Johann David Weiss, and it's about a Swiss family en route to New Guinea that is shipwrecked on a deserted island. They must learn how to live on the island and make it a home as they face an uncertain future. Plenty of adventures ensue as the family builds a treehouse and explore the island and its wildlife. However, the biggest threat to the Robinson family is a band of pirates looking to recapture a young woman that the two older Robinson boys rescued. Can the family protect their new home from these pirates? And that's the question that we need to answer.
The question of the day.
Yep. So cast-wise, we have John Mills, who he plays Father Robinson. He is the father of Haley Mills, who we just saw in Pollyanna, and she becomes Disney darling.
Yeah, I never knew she had an acting father.
Yeah. When we talked about Haley Mills, I mentioned that Haley Mills and John Mills are both Oscar winners, and she got her Oscar prior to him. And
What did he win for?
Won for a movie called Ryan's Daughter, which I know. And he only has one other Disney role, and that is a uncredited role in The Parent Trap.
All right. That's probably the most classic Haley Mills of all.
Yeah. So we have Dorothy McGuire. She plays Mother Robinson. We saw her once before. She was the mom in Old Yeller. We'll see her again in the 1963 movie Summer Magic with Haley.
Wait, is she not in Savage Sam?
I didn't see her name on there.
Oh, okay, interesting.
So,
I think that's 1962, so we'll get to that soon.
I think it's a little bit later. I actually think it's 67. Actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. Maybe they killed off the mother or something.
Yeah. So we have James MacArthur. He plays Fritz Robinson. We saw him 3 times prior to this in A Light in the Forest, Third Man on the Mountain, and Kidnapped. This is his last theatrical release Disney movie. He's in 67 Magical World of Disney 2-parter called Willie and the Yank. But other than that, this is the end of his Disney career with us. We have Tommy Kirk. He plays Ernst Robinson, which is the second oldest. James MacArthur was the oldest son, and we saw him twice before, which was Old Yeller and The Shaggy Dog. He's in 9 more Disney movies.
Listen, that's a lot.
Yeah. Next up, we have Absent Minded Professor. We have Kevin Corcoran, who we've seen many times. He plays Francis Robinson. He was also in Old Yeller with Tommy Kirk and Dorothy McGuire. So they have a good family dynamic already. He was in Shaggy Dog with Tommy Kirk, so they have already played brothers once prior to this. He was in Pollyanna, Toby Tyler, and he's in 3 more Disney movies, which I could see. Next up is Babes in Toyland. And then finally, Janet Monroe. She plays Roberta. She is the young woman that they rescue. We've seen her twice before, which is Darby O'Gill in The Little People, and Third Man on the Mountain, which was with James MacArthur. They've already played love interests at one point. And this is the last time we'll see her in a theatrical release Disney movie. She is in the 1961 Magical World of Disney 2-parter Horse Masters. But other than that, this is the last time
Okay. That's a shame. I like her.
Yeah. And then director Ken Anakin. This is his last Disney movie as well. He did 4 total. He did this, Third Man on the Mountain. So obviously he has good working relationship with Janet Monroe and James MacArthur because they were both in that together. And then he had 2 of the England ones, which you mentioned, one, the Sword and the Rose, and then he did Robin Hood and the Merry Men as well.
Right.
So,
well, actually, while we're on him, I have to sort of in the legacy of the thing. But did you see all the Star Wars stuff connected to him?
Oh yeah. So his last name is Anakin. And George Lucas mentioned at one point that he was a big fan of him and that he named Anakin Skywalker after Ken Anakin. But then later he took it back and said he didn't do that. But it's already out there. And then also he was inspired by the Anaconda fight with the 2 brothers fighting the Anaconda. and that's kind of where he got the idea for the trash compactor monster taking down Luke in the trash compactor, and then also the pirates fighting the Robinsons. The Robinsons use a lot of traps and type of things, and that's where he gets his ideas for the traps the Ewoks use in the Ewoks skirmishes for Return of the Jedi.
Now, you know, I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, so when I read all this, I did not remember anything really about a garbage trash masher from New Hope, but I love the Ewoks, and I had the Ewok village as a kid. I definitely remember the Ewok battle, and I read that before I saw the end of this movie, and oh yeah, you could totally see the homage to this movie.
Yeah, they use some stuff that I think the Ewoks use some stuff the Robinsons use, but then they took it up a notch as well, and they were like,
sure,
tons of stuff swinging from the trees and like taking out at walkers and stuff like that.
Well, I think he did name Anakin after Ken Anakin. I like that story. I think it's right.
Well, he said it himself, and then later he was like, well, maybe I didn't. But
yeah, I think he definitely did.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess that's it for the plot and the cast. So what do we think of this movie? I mean, this is like I said, one of the bigger budget ones.
I think it's a fun adventure movie that's wholesome for the whole family. I do think it might be a little long at some spots, but it's still fun in those instances. Like, do I need to see them 10 minutes at this watering hole doing fun stuff? Probably not, but it's fun. And you get the feeling that they are a family the entire time.
Yeah, they really worked very well together. And like you had said, you know, the trio of McGuire and the two kids, I mean, they were already a family unit. And I mean, almost everybody in this movie worked with at least somebody else on another project. So, yeah, I mean, you do really get the sense that this is a cohesive unit. And the two brothers, man, from Old Yeller, you believed they were brothers there. I still believe they're brothers. They play off each other very well.
And they were also brothers in The Shaggy Dog as well. So they've been brothers.
Right.
This is the first time that they've been brothers. But then also I feel like Tommy Kirk and James MacArthur had a good chemistry as well. When they're sailing around the island, when they're rescuing Roberta, and then when they find out that Roberta is actually a female because she was pretending to be a boy at one point, that they now become a little bit rivalry of each other and trying to get Roberta's attention. That was all believable. And
yeah, and they had never worked together themselves, right?
Nope, they never worked together. The two boys, Tommy Kirk.
Because one of the DVD bonus features that we'll talk about, there's a whole like 12 or 13 minute interview thing with James MacArthur where he literally just goes over all of his Disney movies and, you know, how he got this job or whatever. But yeah, apparently the two of them, I don't know if this is still true. I don't know if they're both still alive, but, you know, still talked regularly and sent Christmas cards every year. You know, that they really developed a lifelong friendship from this movie.
No, I think Tommy Kirk's the only one that's still alive out of this cast.
Yeah, this has to be probably about 15 years ago, this DVD. So, yeah, I remember we did look that up the one time.
Well, we looked it up for a different movie, but it still holds true with this one as well.
Sure. But yeah, I agree. It might be a little bit long, but honestly, I think this is one of the most fun family movies that Disney's given us. I don't think it's quite on the level technically as a 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, but that movie wasn't a ton of fun. It was just a really well done movie.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, there's, you know, some peril obviously here, but I think for the most part, this is a pretty fun family movie. There's, you know, cute animals to look at, and, you know, there's a lot of fun scenes with them and the camaraderie and everything. I do find the pirates to be a bit racist in 2021.
Yeah. Disney Plus add the disclaimer that this was had some racial depictions that were not up to today's level.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's quite as bad as maybe Davy Crockett or some of the ones we've seen, but I don't know.
It's not Peter Pan and what made the red. I mean,
yeah,
that's the worst that Disney has done so far. I think, but
even with Song of the South, I think maybe it is worse than Song of the South.
I mean, Song of the South, I feel like theirs was different slightly because the reason why it's so bad is because it was trying to brush over everything and look at everything through rose-colored glasses.
Yeah.
Where Red Man, what makes the Red Man red is not. They were trying to do something good, but then made something super racist.
Yeah, that's true. Well, okay. So speaking of music, there's score in this movie, but there's no songs really.
They sing a Christmas tree song.
Oh, I guess that's true. Yeah. Okay. Just the one then. But yeah, I mean the score is pretty good in it though.
Yeah.
So I like that. I don't know who did that, if that was one of their regulars or not. Let me see if I can see it here. Music by William Alwyn. Not sure if we've ever heard of him before.
No.
All right. I don't know. It doesn't look like he's done any Disney stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, I thought it was, good. Kind of got us in the moment here. So yeah, racist pirates for sure. I don't know. I mean, it's funny because this movie is just all around kind of good. There's nothing really to dive too deeply into. I feel like there's no real like hidden themes or anything like some of the movies we've gotten before.
Yeah. So the scenery is great. Shot on location of Tobago, and they use the natural beauty to its fullest effect. But the matte painter, I forget his name, but he was used somehow in this movie, and I don't know how, because I couldn't tell a single shot that he used. Where
they actually go over that in one of the featurettes of the making of, and they interview him because he was still alive at the time. Yeah, Peter Ellenshaw. He is the matte master.
Yeah, because in some of the other ones, like Third Man on the Mountain, I could tell, I'm like, okay, they definitely used the matte painter for this. But I don't know. And I feel like Johnny Tremaine, I could tell a couple of times that they used matte painting for that. But this one, I couldn't tell a single shot.
Yeah, I mean, it was seamless. And, you got to figure by this point, he's done, at least 10 or 12 or 15 of these. So he's certainly got the method down.
Maybe
but he can still be alive. 2007, he was alive. All right.
Maybe that's why their window of shooting was very small, because if they're using a matte painting, like we've mentioned before, it goes in front of it's clear glass and it goes in front of the camera. So the camera picks up that and then sees the stuff behind it. But the lighting of the painting has to match what's in the background for it to be flawless. So there's a very narrow window, because then if the light changes, it doesn't match up with what he painted.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. So if they only had a few hours of actual daylight, you couldn't really do it when the sun is rising or setting. It has to be, the same as that matte painting. You're right. So that could be one reason why. But yeah, I mean, it was integrated seamlessly in this film.
Yeah.
How about the acting? Are we finally on board with these people? We're sick of them. Kevin Corcoran for me is like, boy, he's so hit or miss. I thought he was kind of annoying in this one again, but that was sort of the role.
Yeah, I think he's good at being the annoying little brother.
Yeah,
Um,
he's definitely good. That's for sure.
I think that's because he doesn't have to act to do that. They're just like, hey, be your normal self, and um, he's young enough and cute enough that it comes off somewhat endearing and cute, and not overly annoying. Um,
Why was Toby Tyler so different though? Because he was like the star of that. There was no other really kid. I mean, I guess there were other kids in it, but like, that is one of my favorite of his movies, and he's like the star of it. And I don't typically like him.
yeah, I think maybe if he has a little bit of direction and some like, hey, we're going to do this, it's a little bit more seriously, we're not just doing gags. And then maybe it was just more that he had a great relationship with that monkey, and the monkey was the annoying one.
He really did.
So it just didn't seem that he was as annoying because the monkey took over that role that he normally has.
Okay, that's a pretty good point. That could be it. I mean, either way, like we said, his relationship with Tommy Kirk is outstanding. It's so believable, and they're sort of growing together in these movies. But yeah, I mean, I could nitpick a few things, such as the old, Gilligan's Island classic of, if these people can build this amazing thing in the jungle, why can't they fix the boat or build a different boat? I mean, that you sort of have to suspend disbelief a little bit and say, all right, well, we're just going to have fun with the movie and not think too deeply about it. But one, I suppose, could say that.
Yeah. But talking about the actors, there is great chemistry between everyone, even newcomer John Mills, who has never done anything with any of these people prior. He has great chemistry as the dad with all the kids and the wife. And then Janet Monroe, I wish he did more with Disney, because I think she had great chemistry with James MacArthur, who she worked with before. But I thought she had good chemistry with Tommy Kirk as well. And it was believable that she had feelings for James MacArthur, but also really enjoyed just being friendly with Tommy Kirk.
And all the ones she's been in have been very good.
Yeah. And when we mentioned her from Darby O'Dill, she signed a 5-picture contract, and she only does 3 released in theaters and then 1 more Magical World of Disney. So Disney had her under contract to do 1 more at least, if he's counting the Magical World of Disney. But
yeah, there's got to be some other story there. We'll have to look into that and see, because I'm sad that this will be the last one, because of course we're not doing the made for TV Disneyland shows.
Yeah. But I mean, we can talk about the animals that they have pets as well. They have 2 Great Danes.
They were great.
Named Duke and Turk in the movie. One of the Great Danes, the one that played Duke, he goes on to star in an actual Disney movie, the 1966 Ugly Dachshund.
Okay.
He's the Great Dane from that movie. So there's another Disney connection there.
Yeah.
The elephant they had, his name was Rocky. And then you have a donkey named Lightning, an ostrich named Clementine, and a zebra named Duchess. And that's another scene that I thought went on a little bit long, was the animal race scene.
That was my least favorite in the whole movie. It added nothing. I mean, I get that we're seeing them, frolic as a family and all of that. But as that was going on, I was like, all right, if there's a way to get this movie under 2 hours, it's to take this whole scene out.
Well, it relates to the plot a little bit, because the things happen, then that draws the pirates, and the zebra runs off, and that's how Roberta finds that the pirates are coming. So it makes sense, but it's just a little too long. But
I thought it was a lot too long.
Yeah, a lot too long. But I think the reason why they have it in there is just because, I mean, it's kind of fun to see the actors riding animals that you would never ride.
Yeah, that was pretty amusing. And I think all the scenes with a lot of animals were fun to watch for sure. But we did see it in a lot of scenes. I guess none more than that scene, but I think we got a good taste throughout the film of them riding these animals.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. You're right. I mean, I guess you could keep the scene in, but just trim it down to like 3 minutes or something.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, let's see. Is there anything else before we get into the details of the DVD here?
What else do I have? Well, apparently John Mills did not enjoy his time filming on location. He has this whole quote of him, like he had to wake up super early, travel a couple hours by vehicle to get to location, go through the swamps and bushwhack to get to the actual site, film for a couple hours, get eaten alive by insects, get roasted alive by the heat, and then hopefully get the shots and then do everything in reverse and then wake up the next day and do the same thing. So I don't know.
Yeah, I can see that not being fun.
Yeah. I don't know if you got that from the commentary at all, but
they didn't really delve too much into that. They just kind of talked about how he didn't really know anybody and he felt a little out because like
he was I think he was the only English.
He's the only Brit. Yeah. Yeah, he was the only English person, and so he felt like a little. So they talked about that a little bit, but no, they didn't talk about him hating his journey there. But I mean, like you have people like James MacArthur and Janet Monroe who did Third Man on the Mountain, so it's like they're kind of used to doing, more extreme things with filming. Yeah. I guess.
I also read that Haley Mills visited the set, and I still don't understand how Kevin McCorcoran has a life because he just seems to be in everything. Like
I know
he was in 3 movies that were released in 1960, and it looks to be all about the same age. It doesn't look like he's super young in any of them. But I understand that sometimes it takes a while for a movie to get out in theater, but it seemed like even the thing that said Haley Mills was filming Pollyanna and then she'd visit the set of this, but I'm like, wasn't Kevin McCorcoran in Pollyanna?
Yeah, and what's funny is like, I mean, he's interviewed on this DVD, and this is, I don't know, probably the 3rd time I've seen him interviewed in some of these, because Old Yeller had some interviews with him. But I mean, he always looks back so fondly on his time in the studio system, and so maybe it didn't matter that he didn't have much of a life. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I guess if you're riding elephants and catching monkeys and I don't know, playing,
he did seem to be having fun.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how old he's in this movie. What is he, 10? Do you think he's 10, 12?
He's probably. He's probably 10 or 11 in this movie, I would think.
What 11-year-old gets to ride an elephant in the ocean? And I don't know.
Yeah, none that I know. Well, and did you know this? So in the Shaggy Dog, he plays that Moochie character. He did like several Moochie movies for the Disneyland show.
Yeah, I mentioned that offhand last time, but I feel like it's not the same Moochie because I looked it up again because that Moochie has a different life than the Moochie in the Shaggy Dog.
Oh, so he played 2 separate characters for Disney named Moochie at the same time in his career.
A couple years later, he plays the other Moochie. But
that's very bizarre.
I guess Moochie was a popular name back then. I mean, it's short.
No, there's no way that's true.
It's short for Montgomery in the Shaggy Dog. His name is Montgomery Moochie, whatever the last name is.
I know. It's like a nickname. But I don't know. That's like if Leave It to Beaver did a movie at the time where his character was Beaver, but it was different people. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
I know, but he does. He put it off. Okay.
He did. He's one of our favorites. All right, so let's talk about the aftermath of this movie. So they did the comic books like they usually do with these Disney titles. 1962, Gold Key Comics did the Swiss Family Robinson show or comic book, but then they put them in space, and so it was called the Space Family Robinson. And so they created Lost in Space on CBS based on the Space Family Robinson comics, which I never put together because the last name in Lost in Space, Danger Will Robinson.
Yeah.
Did you ever put that together? Did you know that?
Well, once you said that they made him Space Family Robinson, I was like, isn't that just Lost in Space? Like,
yeah.
But I didn't know that they had a comic called Space Family Robinson.
Yeah. So apparently Lost in Space is basically just based on the Swiss Family Robinson movie. And I would say book, but I guess this is so different from the book. Maybe it's really based just on the movie. But and then they also had another movie unrelated in the mid-70s with another Robinson family living in the wild called The Adventures of the Wilderness. And then they did a TV movie in the 80s with Disney. I don't know if it was for the Disneyland show or, Disney Channel existed by then too, but it was called Beverly Hills Family Robinson with Martin Mull and Diane Cannon and a very young Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of product, over the next 40, 50 years, some Disney, some not Disney with this sort of concept. And then I'm sure you saw this on Wiki about all the versions they were going to do in the last 15 years or so, with the different actors. So let's talk about that for a second. So in 2004, Variety said that Disney was developing a Swiss Family Robinson remake, but nothing really came of that. But they were talking about maybe having Lindsay Lohan, considered for a role, and her publicist or whoever was quoted as saying like, they're only talking about it because she would have to be a more minor role. And of course, at that point in her career, she was, the Disney darling. Freaky Friday had come out, Parent Trap had come out. So then they were going to do another version a few years later, 2009, with Will Smith and Jada and Jaden and Willow and Trey and all of their children. And then that turned into After Earth, which I guess I can see it, but After Earth was such a bad movie. You saw After Earth, right?
Yeah, I saw it.
Terrible.
It was bad. I wouldn't say it was M. Night's worst movie.
No, it's not. I gave it a C-. I guess bad, is maybe a little harsh, but but I don't quite get the Robinson family vibes from that because Will Smith was trapped in his spacesuit the whole show, and
I think maybe when it says it turned into that, I think it was just like they were looking to do something like another father family movie, and then instead of the Robinson family not really working out with Disney, M. Night had this other thing they pitched in, and I think that probably how it turned into that.
Yeah, because they tossed everybody else. I mean, Jada's not in that movie.
No.
Yeah. But they certainly do crash on the planet, I guess. I'll give them that. And then Bill Paxton wanted to make it in 2011. And then Steve Carell was maybe talking about doing it in 2014. But none of these have happened. To my knowledge, this is the last theatrical version of Swiss Family Robinson.
Yeah. Let's see how the Jungle Cruise does this summer and see if that maybe gets Disney interested in maybe trying to do a Swiss Family Robinson again.
That actually could be. I saw a preview for that before Black Widow. It actually does look pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, I like Dwayne Johnson and I like Emily Blunt. And
yeah.
So we'll see if it does well. I mean, The Rock isn't with a giant gorilla or anything like that. He's not with
I'm sick of those. I would rather he be with Emily Blunt than climbing skyscrapers and being with the giant gorillas. I that Rampage movie, I hate it.
Yeah. I think when he has someone to act off of that can kind of hold their own with him, like he did with Jumanji with Kevin Hart and Jack Black and Carrie Gilliam, I think he does well. When he's just by himself, being the action hero. It's very hit and miss.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and we all love Emily Blunt, so hopefully that does well. But yeah, I can see them if that does do well. I could see them kind of revisiting this one, especially with the accessibility on Disney Plus. I'm sure there's a whole new generation of people that are discovering this movie that haven't seen it 20 25 years. I mean, it's not like this isn't one that like plays on TV all the time, or that a lot of people had the VHS of.
Yeah, and Disney goes through that thing where when they get a hit with something based off of a theme park ride, then they try their hand at a couple more, and they usually flop, and then they get another hit.
Yes, that's true. Well, look, I could see Steve Carell doing it. He was one of the names we mentioned. That was the most recent person that had been talked about. I love Steve Carell. I could see him doing the adult, the father in this.
Yeah. What's your thought, your opinion on the fact that they always call the father and the mother? Like, even when the father and the mother are addressing each other, they still call each other father and mother.
I feel like that was an old timey thing, because I mean, this takes place in the early to mid 1800s, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm not really, and they were trying to go find a new colony in New Guinea.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
That didn't really stick out to me at all. But I mean, now that you mention it, I guess they don't even have names, right? Their names are just father and mother.
Yeah, because that's how they're credited, because you don't know.
Right. That's very odd. Although, boy, I'm looking at their actual character names. So John Mills, his character is William Robinson. So Will Robinson from Lost in Space.
Oh,
it's all coming full circle here.
Yeah, on IMDb they didn't have that. They just had father.
Now maybe they're getting that from the book. I don't know. This is Wiki I'm looking at, but yeah, it's William and Elizabeth Robinson. It says.
Okay.
But right in the movie, their characters don't have names, so maybe that's strictly from the book. I don't know.
Okay.
But all right, so let's talk about this DVD quick, and then we'll grade some things. So disc one of this is the movie, of course, and then audio commentary with the director Ken Anakin, Tommy Kirk, James MacArthur, and Kevin Corcoran all participate in the feature-length commentary. And then they pair it with the original short that was in theaters with it, which is a Donald Duck short called Sea Salt.
Okay.
Which it must have been a re-release, because that's a 1949 cartoon, but it says that's the one that was with it, and it makes sense because they're both sort of sea themed. And then disc two, there's a bunch of stuff. There is the Adventure in the Making, which is the 50-minute feature about the making of, and that's where you get interviews with everybody that I just mentioned from the commentary, but Peter Ellenshaw, some of the producers, and there's a whole bunch of different production stills and videos that go with that when they're talking about it. That was very cool. The 12-minute James MacArthur feature, where he talks about all of his movies, even the ones that we haven't seen yet. So I thought that was pretty cool just to hear, especially the ones that we had already seen. The ones that were upcoming, I didn't really pay much attention to because I didn't spoil it.
Because this was James MacArthur's last movie.
Oh, this was okay. That makes sense, because he talked a lot about Hawaii Five-0 after this, but he was in other movies. I guess they just weren't Disney movies then.
Oh,
he did talk about like at least 2 or 3 movies after this, but I guess they weren't Disney then.
Yeah.
But yeah, then he talked about getting Hawaii Five-0. So that was kind of cool. And then there is 20 minutes, like I said, of the 1940 version from RKO. This was interesting. So good old Haley Mills takes us through a 3-minute tour of when they premiered the Treehouse. Would you say that was 1972 or 71?
Well, 1962 is when they had the Treehouse at Disneyland.
Oh, okay, because it is Disneyland. Okay, so it was 62 then.
And both Haley Mills and John Mills were there for the opening of the Treehouse.
Well, yeah, they show the footage of like the opening of it, and then in a current day voiceover, which I guess is 15 years old now. Haley Mills goes over like, oh, I haven't seen this footage in 15 years. Here's what we were doing on that day. So that was kind of cool for Disney enthusiasts, I guess. And then, a couple other like kind of stupid things. There's like a 2.5-minute feature about all the Disney pirates in different pirate movies. I think this is right when Pirates of the Caribbean came out. So
probably
kind of makes sense. But yeah, overall, it's the first DVD I've had really anything to say about for a while.
Yeah, we haven't had bonus features since 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Yeah. Well, I would have for Pollyanna, but I bought the Blu-ray that I didn't know didn't come with any of the bonus features. But Pollyanna also has one of these 2-disc DVDs that came out 15 years ago. But I didn't know that at the time. So yeah, I guess that's true. No, Shaggy Dog, I think, had some.
Maybe.
Or maybe. Darby O'Gill definitely did, because that was that's where we learned about the matte paintings.
But not as much as this one.
No, definitely. Yeah, I don't think there was a feature commentary with that and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, this is definitely the most extensive one. But I think Absent Minded Professor might have a few features as well. That's the next one we're going to be doing. But overall, let's grade this thing. I would give the DVD itself, probably a B+ or something. There was some good stuff there. But I think the movie is probably also in that kind of range, A-, B+.
Yeah, I would say A-.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah,
especially for the times that was filmed. It definitely captures the fun vibe of living on an island, and they had to do some crazy, amazing things to get just to set things up down there in Tobago. I mean, they did some crazy things to even just capture the images that they probably couldn't do today.
Yeah. And I think this is a really fun movie for the kids.
Yeah, I think it's still it's a little long at some spots, like we talked about the animal race scene and some stuff. But for everything that kind of deters, there's tons of beautiful footage and great acting to lift it out of that.
Yeah, I agree. I think this definitely still holds up 61 years later. And I can see why it is kind of talked about alongside a lot of the live action best.
Yeah. I would say that to describe this movie, it takes the fun of the Shaggy Dog and puts it into the adventure epicness of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. So you have the fun familyness and the epic, and they both it's the perfect blend where the Shaggy Dog it's fun, but it's not epic, where 20,000 Leagues is epic and amazing to look at, but it loses its fun a little bit here and there.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. And I would put Third Man on the Mountain kind of in that camp too, in terms of the adventure aspect of, the blending of the movies.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, so up next, I'm going to do 101 Dalmatians with Joe. And then we've got a couple of really heavy hitters coming out of that, which is Absent Minded Professor and The Parent Trap.
Yeah, those are, I've never seen either one. I have seen
You saw Flubber, right?
I don't know if I've seen all of it. I feel like I've seen parts of it, but I don't know if I ever saw all of it. I know I didn't see it in theaters, but I think I saw parts of it on when it was on TV and someone was watching it. But I mean, obviously I saw The Parent Trap with Lindsay Lohan.
Yes, that classic. And then after those, we've got like 10 movies that no one's heard of. I mean, Babes in Toyland, I guess, is in there, but like Greyfriars Bobby, Moon Pilot, Almost Angels, Big Red. I mean, these are not your top tier Disney. So hopefully 1961 keeps us going into the next really big one, I would say. I mean, Son of Flubber is 63. Oh, there's Savage Sam. So we were both kind of right. Savage Sam is 63.
Okay.
So kind of in the middle of where we're thinking. And then, I mean, the next huge one for us after these next couple is Mary Poppins, and that's 64.
Yeah.
So, all right. A lot of ground to still cover. Tim, thank you for joining as always. And we'll see everybody next time.
Bye, everybody.